I realised I'm almost at the end of the week and I haven't done any updates just because it's been busy, and a lot of this week has been theory based. But what I did do today, there's always that argument about SketchUp versus Fusion 360 and that sort of stuff. Now with our Google for Education stuff, we generally use SketchUp because they do have SketchUp for Schools, which is basically the web-based version, and it gives kids access to it so they can use it here, different computer rooms, at home, all that sort of stuff, so they're not locked in. And I did a really quick demo of just the push-pull method of using SketchUp, where you sort of push blocks and then drag them all over, but then taught them about creating scale. So I showed them the idea of scale, and I tell my guys that SketchUp is your virtual workshop. Build things in solid timber sizes. So these are 140 by 19, which is the most common piece of timber that we buy. And then I say you just make sizes, create your parts, make components, put them together, make groups. And then same with the legs, showing how you can copy and paste, just like any other Windows program. So they now got the hang of it. Yesterday, one of the kids got in there and had a bit of a play using this push-pull method and saw that it can be quite frustrating, to say one word. And then I just say, if I can see the measurements up there, here's our most common pieces of pine that we buy. So they've got the 140 by 19, the 140 by 12, and the 42 by 42, so that they can get those basic things of making a table, chair, bedside, cabinet, whatever. And so they're getting into the groove of that. We're towards the end of week 7. This is the 11-week term. This is meant to be due the folio stuff in week 10, so we're now honing right in on getting those things drawn and built and working out the sizes. And that way they can build them next term. Our cafe's on at lunch today, so I better pack up and go up and have a look on the staff and the students and see how they're going. Because I think all the students are here that are meant to be part of the team. If you're brand new to my channel, you might not have seen this before. I mentioned the cafe a second ago in the video. This is our cafe area that my construction kids made over a number of years, like the roofing and that sort of stuff, and then the reclaimed pallet walls, and then we've got the cafe screens to screen it all in. You can see these two are open because it was a nice day today. The cafe was running up here, but it essentially keeps it enclosed as a room, as a space. So you can see that's the way to the kitchen. Big old fridge that's died, so it's now storage for things in the cafe, like table markers and that sort of thing. But I just thought I'd come up and have a look, give you a look at it, show you around. The entrance to the cafe. It's down the stairs, where there's still a bit more work to do, so that pallet wall stuff still needs to happen here, and this internal area of the wall of the entrance door. So that's going to happen. So a few little things still left to do with that. But we did get some couple of new bits of exciting news today, or things happening, and I'll show you one because I was talking about it the other day. Our replacement disc sander arrived. So here's our old disc sander that had died because the engine or the motor mounts had basically cracked, and so when you turn this on it would vibrate like crazy, so we had to stop using it. It's been switched off. Here's our replacement one. It finally arrived today. It's almost a year since it was approved, apparently, although we didn't hear about it. That's another story. Good industrial machines. One of the big things that makes it approved for the department is this switch. Apparently the key out switch. I was actually told by the manufacturer guy who was here delivering it this is something like $375, and that's one of the things that has to go onto a machine to get it approved for the department. So it must be able to be keyed off. I have to say this one's going to be good because it's got this guard over the upward spinning side, because we often have students who their timber will slip across onto the wrong side and it'll flick up. So actually having a good guard over that, I think it's going to be a really good bonus, especially this being the junior room. I mean, me and my other staff member looked at it and went, oh, geez, that's nice. Can we put it in the senior room? So look at that. New one, old one. That's the sort that I've got next door in the senior room. Now I've just got to have contact our contractors to get it installed, because even though it comes with a 3-phase plug, there is no 3-phase socket anywhere. All of our 3-phase stuff in this room is hardwired in, so that's going to have to be hardwired in by the contractors. But I'm hoping that, based on my phone call last week, that is what's meant to happen in the next couple of weeks, because they were just waiting for it to arrive first. And the other bit of news with that is we've got 2 kitchens upstairs. We've got a hospitality one up there and our junior one up there. And the junior one is being upgraded under the department's expense. And I think that's because it's just old. It's an old chipboard kitchen, so they're going to be replacing a lot of the cabinets and that sort of thing. And we've got senior projects models being printed out, so they've got a visual image of what their woodworking project is going to look like. Gives them a bit more of an idea of scale and proportion and that sort of thing when they can see it physically. Almost all packed up. Close up that shed, put the bike away. It's 7:30 at night. It's been a horrible weekend of weather again. Most of yesterday was rain, and it was annoying because it's been warm during the week. This was my project that I really should have gotten finished all this weekend, but yes, like I said, yesterday rained, came out today because it was fine, and I had all the tools out. I had my little saw out, I had the drop saw, the drop and slide, and I had this set up on that old door out here on Sawhorses, and it just started raining, and I had to move everything under the cover of the deck to try and get it finished. And there was a few design iterations. Like initially I tried using some of the leftover timber from the railings that I did last week, and I really wanted to try and get a video of this because it's a fairly significant project. It won't be this tall when it's installed. The legs will get sunk about 1 foot into the ground, so that it'll be about to the very top, 4 feet above the ground. But a good size letterbox. These were a couple of the sleepers that I've had around here, 2x8 hardwood. Yeah, it was an on again, off again day because of the rain. Well, I love my little work shed. Stuff didn't work out quite as well with the rain. I was just moving stuff in and out all day. One semi-successful day. I'll give my workshop some mood lighting. That's actually working quite well. This is one a little bit messy over the lathe, but it was part of the Christmas lights off a tree that we bought for this year. We bought a tree that was pre-lit, and you'd basically stand it up, fold it out, and all the lights were already in it. And I got it all set up, and then started vacuuming around it because a lot of the fake nettles had fallen off. And I was vacuuming around it, and my Dyson with its big turbo head pulled the power cord in for the Christmas lights and absolutely shredded it. Just ripped the wire completely out of the plug. However, the set of lights was, because the tree was actually in two parts, there was a central plug to put in. Actually, I think it was three parts because there was a little bit on the top of the tree as well. But it had two plugs, one where you would have it plugged into the line that was coming from the bottom of the tree, and then a little plug to go to the very little bit of the top of the tree. So basically the bottom section of the Christmas lights were stuffed. My wife said, you know, we're not using those, so I took them all off the tree. But the power plug was completely separate from everything else. And this center section of the lighting basically starts at the power plug and just does a giant ring. So I started there where the power plug is and went in two directions. So one part goes up here, and I just went sort of up here and across, and then down along here, and then back up and around here a little bit, and then across here so that I can actually see the shelving where all my stuff is. Come down here, and then just started moving across the top of the shed, and then down here, and then up and around, and like this last bit here was a bit messy where it then goes up and meets back at the power point. So I'll probably try and redo that bit a little bit more. A bit more lighting over here near all the screws and stuff that I've got in the corner, because it'd be nice to be able to see all those. The lathe area is well lit. The workbench is fairly well lit. And I do know that I've still got more lights if I want to use them, but this is pretty good because I can actually just, it's enough light to actually see what I'm doing out here. If I came out just looking for something, just run the power cord out from the laundry, which comes in just at the door, plugs into my little power board, which has USB ports and several protected power points. And now with that in there, gives me enough light to see what I'm doing. Like this looks better lit than the when I had the work light in here. But I think it's time to go inside. Hey Sam. Hey Sam. Tuesday arvo. Just finished up a after school class with my seniors, year 11 timber class. Basically getting them to get all their research and their planning done, so they get to see sample jobs from past people. This was actually a stool made by one of my staff when he was an apprentice. So they're doing their planning, trying to get them to use SketchUp to draw, and then they create a cutting list based off their diagram, and I just give them this sort of a thing on the whiteboard. This is when we start working out some ideas with them because they can't visualise things. And then I get them to use Google Sheets to sort of reproduce this, and they come up with their cutting list off their diagram, which shows them the importance of trying to draw their diagram to scale. I show them how to make each piece an individual piece as though they are building in a virtual world. So the one student who really got into it today, making a terrarium stand. So he built his top as a solid piece and then made his legs, kind of like how I've got this table here. So they got 2 pieces for the leg. So it looks like a thick leg, but it's not really. And so he used that design, came up with, width, the thickness measurements obviously, so he came up with the width and the length. And he designed something roughly around that, but big enough to hold a terrarium, and then created his cutting list. And at the end, he looked so excited, he said, "That was easy, I've got that done, no problem." And it was, it's good to see when they actually realise, the work is achievable. You just got to not muck around. And he asked what his next step was, and I said, "How's your research going?" And he said, "What research?" I said, "Exactly." And then he found out that he had actually started it. He just has to finish it, looking at other projects that are out there. Where did he get his ideas from? And this is one of the steps of the job that is rewarding. Seeing that that little spark when they actually get it, that's kind of what makes it count, makes it worth it. And I noticed like the kids worried about school being shut down because of COVID-19. There has been rumours about it. The department is telling staff to get prepared in case we do have to teach remotely. This is going to be a hard course to teach remotely, depending on how long we end up going out for. But it was really interesting that one of the kids actually said, "I actually hope that school doesn't shut down. This is a space that he obviously comes to and feels safe." And he was one of the kids you'd always find out of class in the junior years. He's actually made a big change in the senior years. Anyway, day's over. See where I go from here. Got a question. Does this look weird? Let me take it off. Coronavirus time. That was the way I went into the shops, with my RZ mask. And I had gloves on as well, like blue medical gloves. Because that way I didn't have to use hand sanitizer. I could touch the trolleys, I could touch everything in the store. Did the same thing last night over in Penrith. I felt weird walking in for the first time. But when I sort of walked in and I saw people wiping down all the hands with the sanitizers and stuff, the wipes. But I was the only person walking around with a mask on and the gloves. And I think with my glasses on, it makes me look a little bit more devious as well. I don't know. And I was wearing a shirt and tie. Maybe that makes it look creepy as well. I had a few people who sort of did a double take yesterday, didn't really think much of it. One poor little girl got a little bit freaked out and started snuggling into her mum. She would have been about 10 maybe. I was basically following the news, like the instructions that if you're going to go out into a public place, you should probably wear a face mask. Doing the whole thing of 1.5 meters distance from everybody. They banned large meetings, like 500 people. The effect on school is we've had a lot of excursions cancelled. The Easter show has been cancelled, which is a massive one for us. So it's over. It's not just the excursion that's been cancelled. The whole Easter show has been cancelled. They said it's the first time that's happened since 1919, when the big the flu pandemic wiped across the planet. So the Easter show has been cancelled completely in Sydney.
So our excursion's been cancelled. Excursions that involve a lot of kids and multiple schools are tending to be cancelled. Like sporting events, smaller events not so much. Like my white card course will still run. But there's also, we're preparing to possibly be working remotely. And some schools have been shut down here. But they're also saying if we shut down, we could be shut down for months because our flu season, our winter season hasn't started. But so while I'm going to the shops, and the shops are looking really ridiculous, and I've taken photos of some of the shelves, it's like, they have put limits on things, which I discovered then. Because I wanted to get some flour, and they only had the small packet, so I went to grab 4 rather than 2 big ones. And it said I exceeded my limit, so I could only buy 2. Sorry, this is getting so dark. And I went, fair enough. But then I wanted to buy a packet of polenta as well. And it came under flour, so I couldn't buy that. And I just wanted to buy that because I haven't had it in ages. So, never mind, put that back. Seems South Penrith's a little bit different to Penrith. I had one woman just laugh. I didn't exactly hear what she said, but she sort of pointed and laughed. And I grinned back. She wouldn't have seen my grin unless she saw the glint in my eyes. I saw some younger people sort of taking a second look. A couple of kids sort of looking, and I would see some asking the parents what's going on. They're looking after me. I think the fact that some schools are starting to close down, private schools mainly, public schools, we're waiting on word from up high. And that's not our boss, not our principal, but higher than that. But the department started putting out some training together for preparing for it, how to do possible learning online. Not all our kids are going to have access to online learning, so you're going to have booklets and things made, which will work for some things, but some other things it might not work so well for. All our practical subjects. We're really concerned about our HSC kids and their major projects, because what's going to happen if they have to go home and can't build their projects? Have to put in for misadventure depending on how long the closure is for, if we go into a closure. But it looks like we might. The state of the shop says we might. It was funny because I went down to Bunnings today to grab something for work, and I wore the mask and the gloves then too. Hardly anybody batted an eyelid. One thing in the store, I asked one of the staff if they could get me the flour because it was still on their trolleys waiting to be put on the shelves. And after she got it, she said, "Where did you buy your mask from?" Told her, "Oh, from the US, bought it online, RZ mask. They got replaceable filters, they're really cool." And she goes, "Looks cool." Another night of it. This time was Costco because I didn't want to come over here yesterday. Again, couple of chuckles from people. I actually heard one group that were chuckling and then they said, "Looks evil." But I did see a stack more people actually wearing masks. Some individuals, some families. Wasn't quite as crazy in here. It was busy, but not crazy busy. But no toilet paper, no paper towels, and we need paper towels. We wanted some flour, and the only flour they had was a 12.5 kilo bag. Anything smaller was all gone. All the pasta was still gone. All the big bags of rice were gone. That's annoying. The guy at the register in front of me, they made some joke about Corona with one of the checkers. He then started to say, "It's just so stupid. People are going to have so much food sitting in their house, it's going to go bad," or "I think it's all a joke. Big hoax." I threw around the term conspiracy at one point. It's not that I think it's a conspiracy that it's actually happening, because there's a lot of people dying that we're aware of. A lot of people getting it. But I think part of the conspiracy is the way some costs and things are going to vary. I mean, take for instance, Trump said his administration didn't want any of WHO's testing kits because he was going to have his own testing kits made. And his company was going to profit from that. And he was basically in cahoots with all the pharmacies and that sort of stuff as well. So even if the price of their test comes in cheaper because we're doing the right thing for the American people, he's going to make billions off it. New South Wales Premier today announced that they would not be closing schools. All sorts of other businesses are closing. Between yesterday and today, it became no gatherings of 500 people or more. Now it's no gatherings of 100 people or more. So we've all of a sudden said, well, we can't have year meetings anymore because year groups are bigger than 100. The school's bigger than 100. And some of our kids are afraid of it, but they're just not. They're not practicing what they're supposed to be. That whole, the social distance stuff. I'm going to check out the price of Costco fuel since I need to fill up. Trying to see which one's got diesel. $1.20 for diesel, that's not too bad. Catch up.
This area is starting to get a little bit clearer. The shelving's beginning to get a bit of use in it. I took a load of steel to the scrapyard last Friday and got smacked in the nose by a piece. I was pulling it out of the trailer. One of the year 12s basically cleared this site of all of the weeds and stuff, and the steel and all these tables that were sort of stacked over there, because that's our site for doing their formwork task for Cluster D, which we've just started. So they'll be starting that here probably tomorrow, because they were asking me about that, and it's ready to go. So that'll be that. We'll slowly get through this. Okay, so year 12 have got a basic peg out of their formwork for the formwork task, Cluster D. It's a rough outline. They'll then do the more accurate pegging after that. And the reason they do the rough outline is just to make sure they got the space where they want it to be. Try and get it set out so it's square in one corner and they can basically get the rest of it squared out. We'll then do the more accurate pegging out next lesson. For some reason, the sun just came out and wanted to be hot today. So we couldn't stay out here for very long. It just got really oppressively hot. So I got them to do that, and then we went inside and discussed what we're doing next.
It's Friday, Arvo. Yesterday, my wife ordered a chest freezer online or over the phone type thing, but they wouldn't let her pay for it in full, and I had to go. They weren't doing delivery. I had to come and collect it. So I drove down to Auburn, went and paid for the rest, then drove across to the warehouse, and when they bought it out, it was longer than the bed of the truck. It was absolutely massive, and when I took a photo and sent it to my wife, and she went, "Wow, that's a lot bigger than I thought." But they were saying, like, there's been a massive rush on freezer buying by people, and when we saw that, we've been wanting to buy a new freezer since like last year sometime. We thought we'd hang around and, my wife, she figured there's probably going to be some sales around Christmas time, and there wasn't. And ideally we'd like to have an upright freezer. They're just easier to manage. It's easier to get stuff in rather than digging through a chest freezer. But they're so much more expensive, and she was looking at, like, our current freezer is about 230 litres or something, and the fridge is 300 and something or 400 something. I think the total for the fridge and freezer is somewhere between the high fives and 600. And this freezer was a 519 litre. And it was a good price. I think that was another reason why she sort of looked at it. Oh crap. I forgot about Sydney traffic. Everybody's buying up all the freezers everywhere. The only other freezer that they had in stock was like a bar fridge size freezer. And as a freezer, like bar fridges are small. A bar fridge size freezer are even smaller. Because while I was just sort of standing there, needless to say, we returned the freezer. They did say that they had a 300 litre upright freezer, and I rang the store and they gave me the dimensions of the upright freezer, and it was 1700, so it was longer than this thing was, like taller than this thing was long. It was probably a lot narrower or something, but it was almost $1,800. And this 519 freezer, chest freezer, was $900. So twice the price for something that doesn't have as much capacity. They took it back off the truck, they organised the refund, because we do need a freezer, but nothing that big. If we were not vegan and meat eaters, then having a freezer that large would be fine, because you buy your meat when it's on special, and you get your sausages, and you buy your... When I used to eat meat, I'd buy meat in bulk and you'd freeze it. And that's what my dad would do. And you'd go fishing and stick your fish in the freezer and all that. So you'd have that sort of big stock up. But if you leave it too long and don't use it, you end up getting freezer burn on all your stuff anyway. I had bar fridge size upright freezers, and they were only an 82 litre, and I had a look inside it. That's not worth it. That's just not worth it. And that was almost $500. Chest freezers are basically an electronic esky. Plug it in the electricity and it's got all the cooling stuff around it. Why is an upright freezer so much more expensive? Right now I'm on Parramatta Road in Auburn. Got to one of the most ridiculously congested sections of road. Always has been. I used to drive along here for work when I worked down in Burwood 25 years ago. The traffic was bad then. And all I can think of is everybody who's doing this now either has to turn off this road somewhere, or they've turned on this road from somewhere. Because once upon a time people would drive along here, myself included, to avoid the tolls. I've now just gotten to the point that if I've got to take a toll road to get somewhere, I take the toll road. It's annoying having to pay tolls to drive on roads, but if it gets you there without having to sit in this. Apparently, the Australian government and the New South Wales government in particular have decided not to bother closing schools or doing a lot of proactive stuff to do with COVID-19 because not many people have died here yet. Obviously, if more people die, or if more people are getting sick and dying, then we'll have to do something about it. But we'll wait and see if that happens. Nothing like running into traffic without checking if there's any first and seeing if you can make it across the street. Schools are still semi-preparing. Apparently there was some address made by our director or something like that. But we've been doing some preparation for distance learning, remote learning, that sort of stuff, and how you can use Google Classroom, which I already use, and Office 365 and Adobe Connect, and they're using Adobe Connect to basically run all these courses. We are kind of getting prepared for it. There's rumours going around that schools are going to shut down. The
the kids are hearing it, that's what I mean. Probably amongst themselves because they want school to close down. Because some of my year 12s asked me. They said apparently school's going to go through till Wednesday, and then like Wednesday of next week, and then closed for 2 weeks up until the end of school. This was week 8. And we have 11 weeks this term, finishing up at Easter. I'm going to say that I actually feel a bit more comfortable walking around with my mask on, and I wear gloves as well so I can touch whatever I like and not have to keep sanitizing my hands until I get back to the car or something like that, because I'm not the only person walking around with a mask on. You've got to look after yourself and those around you, and especially if you've got someone in the family who is old or gets sick really easy because of their immune system, or somebody whose breathing is compromised and that sort of stuff. I've seen it in quite a few places, and I've thought the same thing myself. Sorry, I was just watching a bike peel his way in between the traffic, like weave his way at the lights. Just missed the mirrors on this 2 cars up ahead of me. What was I saying? Crap, I've got a bad memory. Like a lot of people, there's all these things and the memes and that sort of stuff, all you got to do, make sure you wash your hands properly, practice good hygiene. But I'm absolutely amazed at how many times I touch my face. And I've watched people at work too, like when we have our morning meetings and people are talking, and you see people who will touch their face, their mouth, their eyes. They're like, I scratch automatically. I scratch my arm because of that stuff in the neck. But people who put their hands up to their mouth all the time when they're talking, and I am chronically guilty of that. And I used to be really bad with it with my beard and my moustache. And especially when it gets a little bit long, I'd be sitting there touching it and playing with it, and I'd be doing that all the time. And I've realised how much I actually do it. And now if I get an itchy nose, especially at work, if I get an itchy nose or something on my face, I'm grabbing a tissue so that I'm not actually touching my face, because you never know where your hands have been. And we were having this discussion in the staff room. When you start to really think about your hygiene, you realise how much stuff, how many surfaces you touch every day. You walk into the staff room and you wash your hands and dry your hands, and you go over to your computer and you start touching the keyboard and the mouse and the keyboard drawer and the papers on your desk and the book that you need to get, and you touch all this stuff, and then you want to go, I want to go get something to eat. So you got to wash your hands again. And because you realise how many times you're touching all this other stuff, and even though it's your computer, other people will come to your desk if they need to check something. Somebody will put something down on your desk that, where has that been? Well, you don't want to get paranoid about it, because the kids see my mask that I wear in the classroom and they say, is that for COVID-19, coronavirus? And I say, no, it's because of all the dust. Yeah, I should have thought of this better. When I left the store, I should have turned right and back, like headed towards Sydney to get to Silverwater Road, and then going up onto the freeway. Because the freeway is flowing great. I can see it from here. I'm about 200 metres from the traffic lights that let you onto the freeway, and it's taken me 20 odd minutes to travel maybe 2 kilometres. That's how far I've travelled. Oh, next set of lights. Let's see if I can get this letterbox finished this weekend. I'm hoping the weather's going to be nice, because today was horrendously hot.
If I can get that letterbox finished tomorrow and installed, like concreted in, that'll be good. Watch this space. Or more to the point, watch that space back of the house.